All right, so let's get going. So what we're going to do this evening is obviously it's our NSS, so I'm going to go through the POE step by step by step. And then what I'll do is at each section, then I'll stop and say who's got questions, and we will break down that particular question before moving on to the next one. That way, sorry, I'm just grabbing a blanket because it is freezing in Durban. That way it means that the questions that are relevant to that particular question can get answered. So you can just save your questions for now, and let's try get through just going through all the questions step by step. And then if there's something that you need to ask, just let me know. If you want to talk rather than type, just put your hand up like normal, and then you can chat. All right. So let's just go over, just to reiterate, please, guys, for it's mostly for the last part of the POE, but where applicable, just make sure your in-text referencing is correct. But what's really important for you guys is obviously the reference list, because all your sources are going to be there. So please make sure that reference list is correct, that you haven't left things out, you haven't put things in the wrong order. And then for, where it's asked for the additional sources, just make sure they are present. And, I don't want to have to -5 or 10 for referencing and all that. I prefer us to get it right from the get-go. That way, we all on the same page, all right? And if you're not sure if the question's meant to have referencing or not, just put it up on the WhatsApp group. I've covered it a few times, so myself or someone else will answer it. It just depends on who gets there or gets to the phone the quickest. We've got to really use each other as a support system over the next few weeks. That way we are making sure that questions are answered as quickly as we can. All right. So just to remind you guys that how it works is you are working for a publication, not for a publication, sorry, for a publishing house called Groves End Publishing. And the aim here is for you to write in multiple styles, and it's about the research, the interviews, as well as your writing. Okay, so the idea is that you can't go and just duplicate the same thing over and over again. You need to make sure that you're thinking about diversity. A lot of you have been sending me screenshots of your mind maps and everything's been looking good. So just, go through step by step, and don't overwhelm yourself just in terms of the background stuff. Okay. But like I said, as we get through each question, I will answer every and all questions. Okay. So let's look at task 1. So this is the process of process and writing. So this task 1 is 85 marks. So this is the big journalistic bit. Task 2, that's your little bit of theory in your POE. Okay. Hey, Lou. So let's go. Task 1.1.1. Okay, for 9 marks. It says, one of the senior editors at Groves End Publishing has asked you to do some research and brainstorm 4 possible story ideas that could work across publications. So 2 of these stories ideas have to be suitable for a print newspaper, and 2 that would work for a magazine. Okay, so the idea is that if you think of news or news stories, magazine or opinion could go into a newspaper, could go into a magazine, and then your newspaper, your hard news story and your newspaper feature would obviously go for the news side. So even if you don't choose your news stories, if you choose stories that can go for an opinion piece in a magazine, it all works. Let me just type for you. Yes, we have. And back in. All right. So the whole idea here is that you might only use your 2 newspaper angles or your 2 magazine angles, but you're not writing 2 magazine stories. You'd be then writing an opinion piece and a magazine story. Okay. So for this, just please remember your 4 possible story ideas need to fall into at least 2 of the genres which they have given you. Business and politics, current affairs, community, travel, sport, entertainment and culture, education, health and science, technology, and environment. So you have to choose at least 2 of these. So if you want to do 2 stories that work under travel or 2 that work for business and politics, that's fine. Or you can choose 4 stories that go with 4 different genres. But you have to at least have 2 different genres. So you can have 2, 3, or 4. But then the 4 stories obviously get distributed amongst those. So what's important here is just to make sure you've got a clear understanding that it's 4 possible story ideas, 2 that would work in a newspaper, 2 that would work for magazine, and that they have to fall in at least 2 of these genres. So you're either going to choose 2, 3, or 4 genres. All right. Does that make sense to everyone? And are there any questions on that? And please, guys, there is no stupid questions tonight. There is no, I'm sorry if this has been asked, all that kind of thing. Ask anything. That is what I'm here for. Okay, Kirsten's good. The rest of you? Any questions at all? Okay, and I'm going to take radio silence as you guys are, you're good with what I've said. Okay. All right. Then just to remember, once you've done that, once you've thought about your ideas, you're going to list your 4 possible story ideas. Okay, so that's what's important, is that you've actually got to list them, and then you're going to provide a brief synopsis of what you think each of your stories could be about. So this is what I'm going to be looking at. You're going to give me the idea. So remember I said you can bullet this, you can number list this, but it's got to be, you don't even have to do that. You can just do 4 paragraphs, that there is the story idea, and then just like a description about that story. So you can underline that story idea and then give the synopsis, or you can do a colon. I don't mind. Okay. Yolandi, how would you know what is suited for a magazine and what would work for a newspaper? Just want to check. All right. So remember, with our styles of stories, each story idea kind of, you can see if it's something that's going to be a story that would be more formal, more about, you know, with statistics and facts and what have you, which would be more suited to a newspaper. So more formal in their approach, where a magazine piece is more relaxed in its approach. So your opinion piece could fall into both. So it would fall under, you could write it in a more formal manner, which would then work for a newspaper, or an opinion piece can be more relaxed and more casual and conversational, then it would work in a magazine. So your main points, like distinguishing factors, is the formality and the conversational tone versus factual and just information sharing. Oh, well done, Lou. Okay. So that's all the stuff we've been working on. Okay. So once you've given me the story idea and the synopsis, you also need to provide 4 different sources for each of your story ideas. All right. And what these sources are, guys, you don't have to do a you don't have to do a full reference list referencing for these 4 sources. Okay. But I would recommend doing it, because it means then once it's done, you can then use it in your final reference list. But if it is just the web link there, I'm not going to flag you for plagiarism. I'm not going to flag you for -5, -10. Okay. Yes, so it is 16 sources, Lou. That is correct. Okay. So 4 sources for each of them, because those should be the foundation for your stories going forward. Okay. Kirsten, for the magazine, can we use language such as I? Preferably not, unless the story is something about a personal exploration, which I've spoken to a couple of you about, and I've said it's okay to use I, then it's fine. But the aim is always for the journalist not to be part of the story unless you've got a very strong perspective to share. Remember, even with your opinion writing, it's only in certain circumstances that you'll say, I should be able to see opinion through the information you present, how you present it. You shouldn't have to say, in my opinion, I believe, for it to get across. Yes, and exactly, yeah. So you can do the story idea as the title and the synopsis as a detail. Yes, 100%. Okay. So I should be able to read that first little thing that gives me the idea, and then the synopsis should give me the depth. Okay. So it's basically giving you marks for your research and like your process and getting you to think about what you are doing. All right. Any other questions for task 1.1? Nope. Okay. What did you say in the first, yes, what did you say in the first 4 pages? Oh, Lou, I was just talking, just read through the background stuff and talked to the fact that you have to write 2 ideas for news that would work for newspapers and 2 ideas that would work for magazine. Sorry. My brain's so focused on making sure everyone is good and comfortable and happy, and I'm not even thinking. Right. You can see I'm in full POE mode. All right. So let's look at planning and brainstorming. Cool. All right. So now that you've done the background stuff, now it says your editor has approved your 4 story ideas. Yes, Manisha, definitely. Can fall under education, can fall under current affairs. Yeah, without a doubt. Okay. So now you have to choose 2 of your 4 story ideas to write on. Okay. So it means of your ideas that you have above, there should be 2 that stand out the most to you. All right, the 2 that you really are interested in writing about. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. Please choose stories that you actually find interesting, like yourself, because you literally can choose from the hundreds of thousands of events that are happening around the world and locally and all that. But if you don't find it interesting, how am I going to find it interesting? Okay. Your not passion, I hate the word passion, but your interest and your desire to write on a story will come across in what you write. I can very easily see when people are writing stories that they could not give 2 hoots about. So please try and just think about that, okay? All right, then, now for the planning and brainstorming. So you are going to brainstorm your 2 chosen story ideas further in more detail and produce 1 mind map per story idea. So what you will do, or what you can do, is I'm just going to swap over to the whiteboard. All right, so there's, I've had people share different ways that they're presenting it. But you can go proper old school on this, where you have your story idea in the center. Okay, so I'm going to try write neatly your story idea here. Okay, then you have to have 5 angles. So you do here, and then this is angle 1, and you would state what that angle is. Angle 2, right? Angle 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Doing this with my touchpad, which is not the neatest. Okay. So here are your 5. So off that first initial idea, you should find 5 different points of view, or 5 different subtopics is another way of looking at it, that would fall under that main topic. Because what happens is if you just write on that first initial story idea that we have here in the middle, it's going to be too broad. There's going to be too much. You're going to write and you meant to get to what, 800 word max or whatever it is, but you've got enough there to write for 2,000-3,000 words. So we break it down into further ideas, further angles. And then from here, you can break that down even further and give me further information on those points that you give. So maybe you only come up with 2 for this one, and so on and so forth. So the whole idea of doing this, and this is what a lot of people do in their writing and in their stories and what have you, is to try and bring your story down to a tighter nucleus, a tighter perspective, because you don't want to have too much to write on. So you can present it like this. There's been others that went and showed it as, sorry, I'm just going to rub this out. All right, I'm just trying to get rid of half of this so I can just show you another way to present it. Okay, so I'll just do that for now. Ignore what's on the left. Some people showed they did a block like this, and then they did it in a more linear pattern like this, and then went with further ideas. Also, absolutely fine. As long as I can see 5 different angles and that you're exploring these different ideas, I'm happy. Okay, it's not about perfection, which I know sounds very weird coming from your OT, but it's more about me seeing the development of story ideas. It's more about me seeing that you are thinking about where to go with your story. And remember, guys, every story has been written already, okay? Try and think about something that maybe stands out or is a little different that's making you go, that is a really cool angle, that's a really interesting way to look at a particular topic that's happening around the world at the moment. Okay, so you have to have at least 5 angles stemming from your initial story. So if you get to 5 and you're happy, that's great. If you go and do the 5 ideas and then you go and build upon those more, great, because then I'm seeing not only 5, but 5, 10, 15, whatever it may be. Okay, then what you're going to do is research these different angles, and you're going to go and you are going to provide additional sources in your mind map that supports these additional story angles. So where you've got all those bubbles and all the bits of information, you need to put in the links that go with that particular story angle. So you've got to show me like where that idea is coming from. Is it just that you've randomly thought of it, and if you go and research it, there's absolutely nothing to support what you're saying, or there is like a couple of sources that really support this or that show that this is going to work, however you want to approach it. But what it should be is that I should see that you actually understand like that there is something to your perspective. Okay, then under those mind maps, okay, it's at the bottom of the page, you're going to write down your 2 final story angles, which will form the basis would be better, of your journalistic writing pieces in your POE. All right, so I need to see 2 completed mind maps and 2 story angles. Okay, you can create this in Canva, you can create this in Word. If you do it by hand, for the mind maps, it has to be very neat and has to be very professional, and not look scribbled and rough and not bits and pieces of paper. It has to be on one single piece. I will be very fussy with accepting of handwritten stuff. And yeah, maybe not, Lou. You can do a bit of shading in crayon if your heart so desires, but you can do whatever you want. If you go and use Canva or something like that, you can attach it as an additional PDF, guys. Just from, yeah, there we go, Kirsten. So yeah, you can 100% use Canva. I just want to give you a heads up. or like a just a cautionary tale, let's put it that way. If you are going to use Canva and say, please see attached document, please also just screenshot or do it as a JPEG and drag it in and put it into your final POE as well. Because coming from personal experience, I submitted my assignment last week. I thankfully put screenshots of it in and I filled the page and said, but please, to see high res, please see additional attached document. I didn't attach the additional attached document. So I didn't actually give the additional PDF with the full res version of it. So if I hadn't had put it in my assignment, I would have got 0. So lucky me, but just have it in your POE as well as you can give me the full res of it as well. Okay, I'm protecting your bacon because I almost didn't protect my own. Okay, so one mind map for the newspaper, one map for the magazine. No, Osima, you can do, because don't forget, you get to choose 2. So you could do 2 newspaper, because you could do one as a hard news story and you could do one as the newspaper feature. Or you could do a newspaper feature and a magazine feature. Or the opinion piece can fall under magazine and it can fall under newspaper. So if you want to do an opinion piece that suits your magazine situation better, you would then choose your 2 magazine stories. So it depends what you want to write. If you want to write a hard news piece, a newspaper feature, a magazine feature, or an opinion piece. Okay, cool. All right. So you guys choose from there where you want to go with it. All right. All right. Any other questions for 1.2? Anyone else? Nope. All right. So now you should have come up with your story angles, and then here comes the fun. Conducting the interviews, which I know for a lot of you is like death personified. I promise you will survive, okay? But interviews are really important. Yeah, pulling teeth, 100%, okay? So what is important here is you're going to conduct 2 interviews so that you're able to use your own direct quotes. Now, this is where it's different from academics. I'm going to get to the interview, the transcript structure in a minute. Okay. So you have to have direct quotes from these interviews in your stories. Okay. I cannot stress that enough, guys. There is no point in doing an interview that you paraphrase. I do not want to hear your voice through the whole story. I want to hear the voice of the people you have interviewed, as well as you can go and get quotes from Ramaphosa and this minister and that sports person and that and whatever. But direct quotes are so important in journalism. Okay. I know within academics we always tell you to paraphrase, but in this instance, I have to see quote marks. All right. And please don't just always go, she said, he said, whatever. Just think about variations. So, and just think about the way you structure those quotes. All right. So the people you interview need to have some insight or knowledge of your chosen topics. So whether it's just their personal perspective of load shedding and what they've done, it doesn't have to be someone from Eskom or someone from a solar company or whatever. Use what's around you and what you feel you can cope with. All right. So it's 1 interview per story. All right. And they both have to be face to face. Remember, face-to-face does not only include sitting in a room with the person, this can include a Zoom call, a video call, anything where you are seeing their facial expressions. Because remember what I said when we look at interviews, that it's not just about the words that they say, but it's the facial expressions, it's the body language and all that you can see on a Zoom call, a video call, or face-to-face. It just can't be a telephonic interview, like where you can't see them and it can't be email. All right. If you want to speak to someone else that you can get information from via email or whatever, you can add that in as additional, but you cannot have that as your primary interviews. All right. So you have to use 8 to 10 questions. All right. Please make sure they are relevant and they are on topic and they are a mix of open and closed-ended questions. If your interview takes 3 to 5 minutes, I'm telling you, it means you haven't asked enough open-ended questions, because you should be able to keep that person talking for at least that 8 to 10, for at least like 10 minutes. So just make sure that you have a balance of those open and closed-ended questions. All right. Make sure they relate directly to your topic and give you enough information that you can quote, because you cannot quote yes or no's. All right. You have to document your interview. All right. So this means writing it down. I would personally do a voice recording. If you're doing a video call, you can just record on your phone as it's doing while you're doing the interview. But if you're doing it face to face, just ask the person if they can be recorded, put the phone down on the table and do a voice recording. And then in terms of the transcript, like Manisha was asking, how you put it out, how you lay it out is you'll go question, answer, question, answer. And guys, the point of a transcript is it's word for word. If they say things funny, if they don't, if they leave out words or pronounce some, say something funny like fishes instead of fish, then you write that. You write it as the person said it. You do not alter their language. You're doing 2 interviews, 1 per story. Okay. And guys, if that transcript is not present, you do not get your marks for your interviews. No, Wasima, you just need the transcript. It's got to be typed. Okay. And then, Manish, you can do either. You can do Q and then write the question and then A for answer, as long as I see question or Q or A and answer, or I've had students do their surname and then the interviewee or first names or something, as long as I can distinguish between you and the person you interviewed. And then at the top of the transcript, once you've done the interview and everything, you need to state if it was tunnel, funnel, or trumpet style of interview that you used. Okay. The other thing is you can't do an anonymous interview as your primary interview. If you have interviewed more than one person for a story, then that person can be anonymous as a secondary source. But as your one main interview per story, those have got to be named. Okay. And just remember to tell the people this is not for anyone to be seen. It is literally only your journalism lecturer looking at this. You do not get moderated externally by someone. These do not get distributed in any way, shape, or form. I mark it. I am the only one who sees it and no one else. Okay. And it works out to 10 marks per interview. All right. Any other questions? Must the transcript include all the blah blah? It does not pertain to the question. Yes. So your question would be, how are you? Have you had a good day? Answer is, it's raining, da da da. You don't need to do the may I record you and all that. So as long as you start from your first main, you start from your first main question. Let's go with that. So not the stuff that is there to make them comfortable, but your 10 questions that count for this. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at what you're actually going to be doing with this. All right. It's not just for fun. I'm not going to use the swearing version of that because this is being recorded. So you are going to now, once you've done the interviews, you've done the research, you're now going to put this you're going to actually put this together as 2 written pieces. So you're going to do 2 stories. All right. So like I said earlier, you are going to choose 2 out of the 4 pieces below. Okay. What if the interview person who talks a lot in the interview ends up being more than 10? No, you won't be penalized at all if it's more than 10 minutes. It's just that if it's a very short interview, I'm going to see that you haven't done enough open-ended questions. I never penalize you for depth. That's counterproductive to what education is all about. Okay. Yeah, but I'm telling you that if it's over 10 minutes, I'm not going to penalize you. That 8 to 10 minute thing is given because what students have done in the past is they do like a 2-minute interview and then think that's enough, and then wonder why they do poorly in their final stories. So if you don't give a parameter, people take advantage of the situation. And we've had some people that go, I had to do this 30-minute interview, and we're like, but why? You didn't have to do that much. So that's why those parameters are given. Manish, if the questions are right, there should be a depth in 1 or 2 of their answers at least. And if they talk slow, they talk slow. Then you've just got to suck it up and just let them waffle. All right, so let's have a look. So like I said, you're going to choose 2 out of the 4 pieces I'm going through right now. All right. So this hard news piece is for a newspaper publication. You're going to use the inverted pyramid approach. All right. And it's a story of 400 to 600 words. Okay. And it's got to be appropriate for your chosen genre. All right. And for your story angle that you have done. Okay. So one of your chosen story ideas. Okay. Your story must be written using the research and interview conducted above in 1.1. You need to have at least 2 direct quotes in your hard news story. Okay, and it's got to be from your interview. If you want to go and pull other quotes from other sources online and stuff, then please do. And guys, I know that you have to find the 4 sources for the mind maps and stuff. If you want to go and find more sources than that, and that's what you need to write your piece, do it. Again, I'm not going to penalize you for more research. That's just not how it works. All right. So your story needs to be written in your own words. You may use the facts and quotes from the research and interview you have conducted. You cannot make anything up. Everything has to be factual. If you are doing the magazine piece, the newspaper feature, so those feature pieces, and you need to think about descriptions and the sights and smells and that kind of thing, that you'll be allowed to make up. But no facts, nothing that is like factual information that can be researched, none of that can be made up. Okay, you've got to give your story a headline which is relevant to your piece. So there is no in-text referencing, but everything that you've used to research and create this piece goes into your reference list or your bibliography at the end of this portfolio, including the people who you interviewed. If you look at the reference guide on BC Learn, you will see there are the details, not on BC Learn, but you know what I mean, on your portal. And in the library, if you don't, if you look in that document, there is a guide on how to reference personal interviews. Okay. And then it says use the rubric to look at how the mark allocation works. All right. Then your second option is a newspaper feature that is fit for print. All right. So you'll see it's a bit longer, 900 to 1,100 words. It needs to be, so because of the research and everything, it should be stories that have been in the last year or 2. Oh, thank you, Lou. So page 26 of the Harvard Referencing Guide, the VC one. Okay. All right, so your feature has to be 900 to 1,100 words in length. It's got to be, again, written in your own words. You can just use the facts and quotes. You've got to give your story a headline, again. So it's all about the depth and research that you do. And then it says, as this is a journalistic piece of writing, no in-text referencing must be present. It doesn't stipulate how many direct quotes you need, but again, I would premise it on the, or base it on the idea of having that at least two, as in the hard news piece. But guys, for your features, remember, it is about the emotion, it's about the depth, it's about tugging on those heartstrings. So, you know, the more quotes and the more direct information you can get from people, that makes that people go, I want to know about this, I want to know the deeper story, the better. And direct quotes are how you get that emotion. All right. All right. Then the next piece is a magazine feature, and it's got to be fit for an online publication. So it would reach beyond South Africa. Okay. So it's an online magazine applicable for a South African target market. All right. But with the knowledge that it can go anywhere in the world. It's 900 to 1,000 words in length, so similar to the newspaper feature. No content can be made up. All information presented must be based on research. All right, that is obviously barring, or with the exception of, if you need to describe a scene like visually, or the scent, or what have you, as I said earlier. Kirsten, that's up to you. So obviously someone higher up would be good. If you are doing it from the perspective of the everyday man, then that is acceptable, but it can come across as one-sided if you haven't spoken to someone that's higher up. But maybe you can't speak to someone directly, so maybe you have to go and source something from the internet, where there's a security company official from higher up that you can quote from a source online. Okay. So what it does state here is, please just state what genre or beat, please state what the genre or beat of your story is, who your target audience is, as well as how your story fits with the magazine format. Okay, just because obviously with magazine it's slightly different. So if you're saying that you're writing it for a sports magazine, is very different to how, like, something like Financial Times or Times Magazine, or Time Magazine, or if you're writing it for something like The Economist or what have you. So just give me a bit of clarity on that front. And then you need a headline again, and again the whole thing, no in-text referencing, but put all your sources in the reference list at the end. Okay. And finally, your opinion piece. Okay, it says, as a journalist, it is critical to have an opinion. Readers often rely on journalists and their knowledge and understanding to gauge events taking place within their community to help them to form their own opinions, which can be for or against what the journalist has written. To complete this question, you need to choose one of your story ideas that has significance to you, or that you're able to form an opinion on. This is not an opportunity to rant about a particular event, but rather write with knowledge and understanding of the content you have researched. Okay, so you're going to write an opinion piece of 900 to 1,000 words. All right, it's got to be suitable for a newspaper or magazine, which means a diverse audience. Again, give it a headline. Remember, with an opinion piece, I don't want to hear, I think, I believe, I feel, in my opinion. I should be able to see your opinion through the information that you present, through the details that you give me. All right. And then it says each story that you write is worth 20 marks, so 40 marks total. All right. You cannot go above or below the word count. I will be strict with the word count on this one, because within journalism we have word counts for a reason. You know, it's not like academics where you're having all the in-text referencing to take into consideration and all that, so you will have to stay within the word count. All right. Questions? Any questions at all to do with the 4 pieces? Okay. No, Manisha, no intro and conclusion. You got to write like a journalistic piece. So as it's explained in the notes and in the textbook and on BC Learn. As in empower you meaning like to see how they're meant to be written. Pretty much all, if you go into News 24 or any of those, you'll see a news section and you can use those as examples. Caleb ends and my brain flies up. That's fine. Well, see me, you just message me if if you want to write one. Um, well, I mean, any event that's happening around you can be a hard news piece. So whether it be about a strike or whether it be about um, load shedding, it's got to be on hard news stories are all about what's happening currently. Um, so you've got to know what's going on in the world around you. So you guys aren't. If you're doing a hard news piece, it would need to be something that's happened in, I'd say, the last 6 months. Um, does an opinion piece require quotes? Yes, because remember, even though it is your opinion and it's your views, you should be supporting your views and your opinions with facts from people that have got knowledge on what you're writing about. So no one wants to hear your rendition of what the doctor said. We want to hear what the doctor said. And then you're writing to support that. Other questions? Okay. Any other questions, guys, for the written pieces? Okay. Like I said to Asima, if you think of something um, after the NSS, like during the day or whatever, just put it on the group or privately message me if you're not comfortable on the group. But it does not mean that I will stop helping you after tonight. I will continue helping you guys until this thing is due um, and until you submit by 9 p.m. that night. I will help you. I will not be able to help you with the submission process or if things go wrong, but I will help you with content as much as I physically can. Yeah, the stress is real because, like, tonight's our last collab for the module. So it just means everything's coming together. Yep, I'm busy working on my own portfolios at the moment, so I know exactly what you're going through. Okay. So guys, please just take it bit by bit, and if you get stuck on anything, message me. All right, while you're working on your written pieces and stuff. So let's have a look at the last question. Now, guys, this is an academic piece. This does have to have in-text referencing. Do we upload everything as one PDF? No, Wasimi, you upload it all as one document. If you need to upload it separately because you've created it in Canva and stuff, then you can happily submit separately, but everything can go into one. Okay. As long as everything is submitted and I can click on everything and we got no issues because then nothing's left out, I'm good. Okay. All right, so for your academic piece on fake news, All right, it says with more than 5,000 news stories being published globally per year, it is possible to understand why people feel a sense of information overload when it comes to the media. When there is so much information at your fingertips, it can be difficult to ascertain what information is true and what could possibly be fake. In 600 to 800 words, so you're looking at a page to page and a half, define fake news and describe the impact of fake news on the journalism industry as well as your global society. Support your answers with real-world examples. Okay, so what is important here is you are not having, it's not an essay, it's not an intro body conclusion. You are going to just be writing, and it's broken down into 3 distinct areas. Okay, so it's the impact of fake news on the journalism industry. All right, then it's the impact of fake news on global society, and then the third thing is real world examples. Okay, so what I would do is I would break it down into the 2 separate entities, the impact of fake news on the journalism industry, and then I would do the impact of fake news on global society, and then I would then put examples with both. So you need to show me how fake news has impacted journalism, like with stories being written and distributed by well-known publications when they're very clearly fake, and what that did, like who was fired, who wasn't, what happened, and then global society about how we don't trust and all that stuff. Because that way, it means that you are showing how this is applicable in a real world environment. Okay, so I'm not saying break it into 2 paragraphs. You can break each of these sections into multiple paragraphs, but I would break it into journalism industry, global society, real world examples in both. And then, so with impact on fake news on journalism should be a 2 to 3 paragraphs, global decide 2 to 3 again. Okay. Does that make sense for that question? Yes, and in-text referencing. Okay. Now the question. Any other questions you guys are wanting for me to clarify? Please, guys, you must have a contents page. Not a contents, a cover page. A contents page is not needed. It is nice. If you don't want it, don't want to do it, it does not affect your marks anyway, but a cover page is needed. Okay. Any questions at all, guys? Okay. If there are no questions, then that is us done. Thank you guys for attending tonight. I'm glad it helped. And like I said, if you need anything, I'm here, and I'll chat to you guys on WhatsApp.